Oh, hi there, everybody, and welcome to day. Oh, this is just my book, Even the Defeats. Make sure you go to your local bookshop or Amazon or wherever you get your books from to get that. Anyway, let's get straight to Australian Open Day 3. Nice to have you all here, and let's get straight to it. I think the first thing we have to talk about Naomi Osaka. She had a good first day, round two, I should say. She came through in straight sets today, but to be honest with you, that doesn't really tell all the story. Winners count, unbelievable. Definitely something to bear in mind. And aces again. I mean, again, we're going to just touch on the court speed a bit throughout this pod, and I think, again, that's helping her on her serve. But I do think that 6-4 doesn't really tell the whole story. If we look at the bottom of the screen there with the break points stats, 9 out of 10 break points saved, but you could obviously look at it the other way around. And unfortunately for her opponent, Maddie Brengel, the world number 54, she could only convert one of those 9. That occurred in the second set, and she was actually a break up at one point. And so many break points lost, especially in the first couple of service games from Osaka. And I think, it was some missed opportunities there from Brengel. I'm not saying that she would have gone on to win the match, but I think arguably she should have won that set and, go into a third set and who knows. But Osaka is looking good. I think if you're a fan of hers, a bit like some other players that are sort of coming back from various travails, I think you've got to be happy with the fact that she's in the third round. There was a funny moment as well I just want to highlight at the beginning of that second set. When Brengel, she obviously got bageled in the first set. She loses the first game of the second set. So Osaka has now won 7 games in a row. And then Brengel finally gets on the scoreboard. So she's definitely going to avoid the double bagel. And she celebrates almost as if she's won the match. And to be honest with you, from that moment onwards, she was actually, I think, probably that relaxed her a bit and she began to enjoy things. And Osaka seemed to lose her rhythm a bit, sort of the beginning of that second set. And I think, she did play really well, Jean. Thank you. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think she does lack a few weapons, as you also highlight there. And I think ultimately the weaponry from Osaka is what basically put her through, and her power really overwhelmed Brengel. And I think power is obviously what is important to highlight here when Andy Murray tweets, anyone hit the ball cleaner from the baseline than Naomi Osaka, which, I think is a really good point from Andy. Andy, who's a huge fan of the women's game and promotes it endlessly, and good luck to him for that. And Osaka, though, responding, anyone put their heart on their sleeve and fight harder than Andy Murray. I mean, this is lovely. We love to see this, and it's a funny way to end the day. Both, of course, still in their draws. Murray will be on court again tomorrow. How he'll be after his 5-set marathon from against Basilashvili, well, we'll wait and see. And that's probably to be discussed in tomorrow's Silk Report. So keep attention here. Osaka, well, she should, or probably many of us thought that she would be playing Bencic in the next round. However, Bencic went out today to Anisimova. Anisimova winning in straight sets. Does that qualify as a shock? I'm not sure. I think you can look at this in two ways. I think Bencic, obviously being the number 22 seed, I actually had Bencic going out in the first round. So it just goes to show even the best can get predictions wrong. But she ultimately went out today 6-2, 7-5. I think if anybody saw this match, you'll also have noticed that Bencic was struggling a bit with a leg injury, I think. Gene, not a real shock. Anisimova has been playing great, as this tweet, by the way, highlights. She's undefeated in 2022, 7-0, and Darren Cahill in her corner. Is that helping her? Is that a big thing? Obviously, Darren Cahill, the ex-coach of Simona Halep, and now will play Osaka in the third round. Let me know in the chat. Do you think that Osaka is vulnerable? Do you think Anisimova can at least take a set? I think she can. I still expect Osaka to progress, but it's an exciting matchup that we'll see on Friday. Bencic, I think, since winning Olympic gold, I think she won gold last year, didn't she? And I think since then, I'm not sure that she's been quite at it. And yeah, back to the drawing board. And I don't know if the leg injury really did have a big effect on her today. Again, let me know what you think in the chat. So, talking of injuries and players struggling with them, I guess we have to come to the men's side now and have a quick look at Rafa Nadal. He was up against the number 126 seed today, but even before the match started, the mascot there wanting to look the other way was particularly amusing. And I think by the end of the match, Hanfman wanted to look the other way too, having lost in straight sets today. Let's talk about Hanfman first. I thought he was great. I think some of his winners were good. I think the 6-2 reflection, as Rafa said it in his press conference afterwards, the 6-2 of the first set, Rafa, winning that wasn't a fair reflection. I think it was a nervy match for Rafa and for his supporters throughout. I think Hanfman pushed him a lot closer. Each set could have gone either way. Rafa did face some break points at various times throughout the match. And also Rafa said afterwards that Hanfman's 126 billing or ranking in the world probably isn't fair, because on that performance, he's certainly much better. And you can see why he managed to progress in the first round himself. Regarding Rafa, though, I thought he looked sluggish today. I didn't think he reached maybe even the heights that he's reached in his previous matches. I guess there were positives. He's still not lost his serve. Although I do think his serve overall today wasn't at the same level. I do think that that he only got one ace in the entire match, and that was kind of towards the end of the third set, I believe. But he's through. Definitely has to improve his level if he's going to continue in this tournament, I think. And I think the final thing I want to touch on is something that Rafa mentioned in his press conference in Spanish afterwards. And he was asked a question about the court speed and about the balls. And Rafa was very keen to mention about, he was asked, does he prefer to play it in the day or at night? And Rafa said, honestly, no, daytime. It's so much better for me. Obviously, he can get a lot more revolutions on his top spin. And of course, that then brings us to his next opponent, because in a way, his next opponent will be Khachanov. And I think that match will be at night. So I do wonder if he may find things much more difficult. The other thing with Khachanov as well, and by the way, this is not guaranteed that it'll be at night. I'm sure Rafa will be fighting tooth and nail to get this on the day, but I suspect the Aussie Open organisers Friday night will be wanting him to play, obviously, in the evening local time, which will be sometime around late morning here in Europe. And Khachanov, came through today comfortably, even getting the second set with a bagel. And the other thing about Khachanov, which I think does make it an especially tricky opponent for Rafa, is his ace count was 19 today. Big server. I don't think Rafa's super comfortable against big servers, whether that be Opelka, who also went through today, who's also in the same half, albeit that I don't think they're on course until the semis. If Opelka gets that far. Zverev, of course, lying in wait, and I think everybody is anticipating and probably expecting a Rafa Zverev quarterfinal, but there are tricky things to come. I think Khachanov is tricky. I make it 60-40 in Rafa's favor, but Rafa's going to have to play better. I think that's the overall thing from today's match. Also in the same quarter, or even same would be potentially the round after for Rafa would be Hurkacz or Karatsev. Well, I say Hurkacz or Karatsev. That was the match that perhaps many of us were expecting in the next round. But Hurkacz came a cropper today. Hurkacz lost to Mannarino in straight sets, which, I think it's not a good look. We can look at Hurkacz's record in majors. Look at that. Aussie Open, he's won 2, lost 4. Roland Garros is kind of even worse. Wimbledon obviously being his strongest suit, where he went deep, beating Federer, of course, last year. The US Open, not great either. So in 15 majors, he's only made it past the second round here. By the way, thanks for that great stat there, which is from Vanch 02, I believe. So yeah, what you have to say is that maybe we shouldn't be surprised there. Vanch V2K, sorry. Thanks for that stat. Losing to Seppi as well in 4 sets at the US Open, not great. I don't know. Maybe we're looking a bit too much and expecting too much from Hubie Hurkacz. But yeah, he lost a set in the first round, and well, I'm a bit disappointed because I was looking forward to seeing him against Karatsev. Karatsev did make it through, albeit that and also made it through with the error count down to 45, which is much better than the 107 from the first round. So yeah, I think we can be pretty pleased with that. So Hurkacz against Karatsev. Let me know how you think that's going to go. I see Karatsev, who won in 4 sets today. I see him obviously getting things in order a bit now. He's obviously been playing a lot pre-tournament, both ATP Cup and the warm-up tournament, the 250 that he won. Has he got too much tennis in his legs, or is he fine and those calves are going to see him through? Gael Monfils, next topic. What a 12 months for Gael Monfils. From that sad press conference that we saw a year ago, where, he talked about his tennis career at that point was a nightmare, losing to Rusevori in 5 sets in the first round, and giving that tearful press conference. But now, is this Monfils' year? Let me know in the chat. Can Monfils win the Australian Open? Am I getting too excited? Am I getting too giddy? Obviously, he's got a potential quarterfinal against perhaps Alcaraz or Berrettini, I believe, would be potentially his quarterfinal opponent. On his day, I think Monfils can beat Berrettini, especially Berrettini where he's at right now. Gene thinking that Gael can win the Australian Open. Mark your cards, ladies and gentlemen. Gene Swart says he definitely can. Remember that. Remember the time, remember the date, and remember to remind Gene of this, that he can definitely win the Australian Open. I'm not sure that I would go that far with him. I think the quarterfinal might be his end point, but he's got a chance of making the semis. And that half, I'm not the one saying he can, Liam. I think that half of the draw is kind of interesting. I think Zverev, for me, is the red-hot favourite to make it to the final. Alcaraz, I think we're going to come to him in a minute as well. He's looking very good. But Monfils beating Bublik in straight sets today, and he's got Garin next. I make him the favourite to beat Garin, and yeah, you get to the 4th round and then the quarters, and who knows. So let's come to any other business. And basically where I want to look at with any other business is where are we at with Spanish tennis? Because Jose Morgado said what a great 10 minutes that was for Spanish tennis at the point when I think PCB won in 5 sets, beating the previously long unbeaten Griekspoor in 5 sets. And at the similar time when Rafa obviously went through as well, it was around about the same time of the day. Alcaraz as well. I think they all were kind of in action at a similar time and all proceeding. Alcaraz, though, is the one I want to speak about. And I want to speak about him in the context with Badosa. Because I think we're in a situation now, first of all, with Spanish tennis, where we've got 6 players that I've made a note of here. We've got PCB and Agut. I think are great top 20 players who will regularly, go far, will regularly reach second rounds of tournaments or the second weeks of slams. But of course, we're also looking at Rafa, 20 Grand Slams. Alcaraz, not won a Grand Slam yet. But could this be his year? Then on the women's side, Muguruza, of course, has won a few slams already. Had a great last few months of the year last year. And possibly some of you will have predicted her to win the Aussie Open this year. But Badosa, at the other end of her career and compared to Rafa, certainly anyway, and also Alcaraz, can Alcaraz and Badosa make it a Spanish youth double? I think they can. I think Alcaraz can definitely make the semis. I actually, right now, make Alcaraz the favourite in every match that he plays, even against potentially Berrettini or Monfils. Don't forget Gene's prediction definitely can win it. I think they can both go far. And is Bados a favourite on the women's side? Well, the women's side is I think, a lot more stacked than the men's, but I think they can both go far. I think Badosa, I guess the concern would be the leg. The leg injury that she seemed to show a bit in the first round, a bit less so in the second round. I think Alcaraz, my concerns would be experience. I guess it's a bit obvious. Will we look back at his preparation of not having any pre-tournaments as being the right thing to do or a mistake? I think, well, the narrative will be dictated to by the results there. But Alcaraz, I guess he did have a wobble today in the third set. He was a breakdown at one point, and I thought maybe he's going to drop a set. But, you know, that half, with the exception of Zverev, I think, you know, there's an argument to say that Monfils, if it wasn't for Zverev, because I do think he's the favourite, who also won in straight sets against Millman today, I do think that half of the draw, I think you could choose anyone from Monfils, Alcaraz, Rafa Nadal, Berrettini, definitely. I think all of those, you could argue, could make the final. Maybe Karatsev too. Maybe. I think it's really dependent on Zverev, though. I think Zverev goes out at some point. I don't see it happening before the quarters. I think Zverev's draw really opened up, especially when Harris went out. Zverev, I think, is going to play against the American Opelka next, if I'm right, which will be obviously a serve bot crazy thing. What we haven't seen, no, he's got Al bot, sorry, against in the next round. Who's Opelka playing? I'm not quite sure on that one. He's got Shapovalov. Oh, okay, yeah, Shapovalov. I guess we can finish today's kind of roundup by looking at Shapovalov and basically just 5 sets again today. Shapovalov is just wild, and I just don't see him being quite ready enough to win a slam. Let me know in the chat. Let me know what you think. I'm going to now move on to basically what's going to be happening in the coming 24 hours and what GTL are going to be bringing you. Tomorrow morning around about 9 o'clock German time, 8 a.m. UK time. Apologies to global audience, by the way. I have no idea what time in the world it will be elsewhere. I do know that these are the both matches on for the night sessions. Medvedev against Kyrgios. Let me know how you see that one going. And Raducanu against Kovanic. I'm going to address Raducanu first. I do see her prevailing in that. Am I crazy for thinking that? I don't think so. I think her performance, I think it's a slightly easier match than previously. So I do see that one go through. Medvedev Kyrgios, I know what you're thinking, and you're right for doing so. Medvedev should win this in straight sets. Absolutely. And he probably will. But you do know that there's going to be some fun, don't you? You do know that there's going to be a few tweeners, and there's going to be a few tweeners at strange moments. And it'll be interesting to see how Medvedev deals with that. 12 travel 21, by the way. You think that Medvedev is going to drop a set? I don't think he will. I don't think there's been any sign of that. I have to say that Medvedev and Zverev, in the absence of Djokovic and the sort of doubts about Rafa Nadal and Tsitsipas as well, I think we're looking at two people that are on their journeys towards the final. It does look that way, and neither, of course, Medvedev nor Zverev have dropped a set yet, but neither have really looked like dropping a set. I think Medvedev maybe was pushed to a tiebreak in the first round, but yeah, he was, I think, or maybe it was Zverev against his German opponent. But still, yeah, Gene thinks Kyrgios will take a set. I'm not sure. I think that's a bit optimistic. Let's not forget that, yeah, Kyrgios has won 2 times. Yeah, but 12 travel 21, that's a really good point. But what I do think is that we're looking at different Medvedevs compared we can look at the basically US Open 2019 onwards. I know that one of those victories for Medvedev came in the build-up to that. I'm not sure if it was Cincinnati. But one of the sort of American swing build-ups to that match was where Kyrgios won. But Medvedev is now on a different level. Obviously, winning his first slam last year. But since the US Open final of 2019, Arguably the swing that preceded that, he was on that unbelievable run before losing to Nadal in both Canada, in I think it's Montreal. I always get Montreal and Toronto muddled up. I think it was Montreal. Yeah, Washington final. Thanks 12 Travel 21. But this is a very different beast now with Medvedev. And I also think it's a different beast with Kyrgios. Let's not forget, he's barely played since the pandemic hit almost 2 years ago. I mean, the Kyrgios that took a set off Nadal in 2020 at the fourth round stage, and also the Kyrgios that took a set off him at Wimbledon the previous year, and the Wimbledon 2 years prior to that, I think when he beat him, was it 2016, 2016, I think he beat Rafa at Wimbledon. This is a very different Kyrgios. He's hardly played in the last 2 years, and he's certainly not hit the heights that he showed in Acapulco, which is when he also beat Rafa, and he was really getting under Rafa's skin at that time. This is a completely different Kyrgios. It's a completely different Medvedev. I don't see Kyrgios taking a set, but I do see it being fireworks. Talking of not taking a set, I also think we're going to see Raducanu going back to her straight set self, as she proved at the US Open. I think her really tough matches once again begin in round 3 and then will continue for the rest of the tournament. But I do see her being the hot favorite against Kovanic. Guys, what I'm going to finish with right now is questions. If we've got any questions, get them in the chat now. I don't know if JG, if you've got any questions you want to raise from earlier on during the pod that I may have missed from the comments. Definitely let me know right now in the chat. If you've got any questions, fire them away. If there's a player that I've not highlighted, it probably means I didn't see them. It probably means that I slept. Thank you. Yes. George, Tsitsipas. What do I think of his chances? Well, I don't know is the answer. I would have said 5. Let's go back a month. A month ago, I didn't think he was going to play the Aussie Open. I think I even said I don't think he's going to play. It was kind of a surprise to me that he entered into the ATP Cup. You look at the ATP Cup, he lost to Schwartzman, I think, in 3 sets, which was, it was actually a good performance, I think, especially pretty much his first match back. But then he won in straight sets in the first round. I didn't see him playing in the first round. I don't see Tsitsipas making the final. I think he's obviously in the same half as Medvedev. But on the good side for him, his draw looks quite good. Let me know in the chat, do you think he's got anyone he could lose to? I think a fully fit and firing Tsitsipas makes the semis no problem. But I don't think that Tsitsipas is at the same level as he was a year ago, and primarily because of the injury. The fully fit, by the way, and that comes to the great second question there, Medvedev. Can Medvedev make the final? Is there anyone that could stop him from making the final? In short, no. In long, coming back to the Tsitsipas point, I think it would be Tsitsipas that would normally be the main person who could stop him, but I don't see that being the case. I guess the other obvious one is Sinner. In fact, I think in my prediction, I have Sinner beating Tsitsipas in the quarterfinal. It's always difficult to remember how the draw is. Yeah, Gene, thanks for that. He could lose to Sinner in the quarters. I actually make Sinner the favorite in that. I do think what we're seeing with Alcaraz and we're seeing with Sinner is that they're actually now making it to the next level in their careers. And I see both Alcaraz and Sinner, as a result, having deep runs at slams this year. 12 Travel 21, are we sleeping on Mannarino? What do you mean exactly on are we sleeping on Mannarino? The fact that he managed to beat Hurkacz today. I don't know. I see that more being Hurkacz bad than Mannarino good, and Alcaraz in the next round. I mean, the thing with Mannarino, by the way, is you've got Alcaraz next round, Rafa, followed by Zverev, followed by Alcaraz or Berrettini, followed by Medvedev. You're telling me Mannarino can beat all of those guys? Now, I know there's lots of ifs and buts in there, but come on, let's be real here. At what point do we start thinking Nadal can do this? Liam, great question. I'll tell you when we start thinking. If or when he beats Zverev. Until then, I'm not thinking it. I'm not thinking it. I do think Zverev is the big one, though. I actually think that if he beats Zverev, the confidence he would gain from that, because it's been a while since he really had a big win against a big opponent. I mean, at the French Open last year, which is his last slam, he beat Schwartzman and Sinner en route to the semi-finals. I don't think that they count as being huge wins. That, he lost one set between those two matches. So I don't see that as being big wins. So it's been a long time. As soon as he came up against a big opponent in the Aussie Open last year, he lost against Tsitsipas, wasn't it, a year ago? And basically at the Aussie Open, he gets to the quarters and he gets there in reasonable comfort, and then he loses against a top 4 or 5 player. Tsitsipas a year ago, the year before that was Thiem. And at the moment, I see that being Zverev. And it's the big server. It's not a great matchup. I remember in Paris just over a year ago, not in Roland Garros, but at Paris Bercy, Zverev beat him quite easily. Also the year before, Zverev beat him quite easily indoors in the ATP finals in 2019. So I'm sort of talking maybe 2 years before or whatever, 2019, 2020. So yeah, I don't see it. Now, I know indoors best of 3 is different to outdoors best of 5. I'm waiting for Zverev to throw in a dodgy match, if you like. And I doesn't mean he'll go out, but we do know that Zverev can have a really dodgy serving match, and sometimes the pressure gets to him. But I do think he wins the first 2 sets against Rafa. That may well be enough to see him through and ultimately knock Rafa out. But that's when I start thinking that he can do this. Sinner Alcaraz final, is it possible? Absolutely, Almino. It is possible. I have them both getting to the semis, and so from there, you never know. Can Alcaraz beat Zverev? Yes. Do I think he would beat Zverev? No. Can Alcaraz beat Rafa? Yes. And on this surface as well, I know you would look at Alcaraz being more of a clay courter, and you would probably look at Rafa the same, but I do think that probably the margins get a bit closer on the hard court. So if that was to be an Alcaraz semi-final, then I think he could make the final. We'll come to this one, and then I want 1 or 2 on the women's, and then we'll bring it to a close. How do I compare Shapo to Wawrinka? Seems like best of 5 is much better for Shapo. Wawrinka didn't have much success outside the majors. I could see something similar with Shapo. Jared, great question. I do see them being very different, though. I know we looked at Shapo obviously winning in 5 sets today, and he won in 5 sets, I think, in the first round. So I think we're looking at those 2 matches in particular. But actually, I think Shapo is someone under pressure I'm not really convinced by. I know he got to the semis at Wimbledon last year, but as soon as he came up against a really tough opponent, as in Djokovic in the semis last year, he goes out. I think a player where Shapo is at right now, who is a bit hit and miss, who is a bit wild, especially that backhand is the best backhand in the world 1 minute and the worst the next. I do actually think the best of 3 formula works better for Shapo because of a lack of consistency, that you can sustain it over 2 sets, perhaps, and obviously 3 if it goes that far. But sustaining that over potentially 5, I think then weakens your chances. Now, I know we've seen him come through in 5 sets in the previous 2 rounds, but I think that was more the fact that he was just a much better player than his opponent and really shouldn't have gone to 5 sets. So I do see them being very different. Let's see where I am in 5 years from now. Maybe Shapo's going to show me that he's actually much better in 5-setters. But actually, his record in the 3-set format is much better. And Wawrinka, opposite. Wawrinka is a cool as a cucumber guy who absolutely maximized his potential in the 5-set format, and that's why he won 3 Grand Slams. Am I right? And yet, really, you would say Murray, who also won 3 slams, very different. I think Murray, you probably would have expected to have won more than 3. Injuries obviously taken their toll, but Wawrinka the same. There was a good women's question there. Yeah, who do you think will edge out if Barty and Osaka meet in the 4th round? As it stands, I would make Barty the favourite, but I do think it's a case-by-case or more of a round-by-round analysis. We all do those unbelievable predictions before the tournament begins, and then we see how the tournament, turns out, and then we have a much better idea. Now, it'll be interesting to see how Barty and Osaka get on in the 3rd round. I do see Barty prevailing in 3 sets. And I do see them both making the fourth round. And I think it's going to be, get the popcorn out, depending on what time of the day it is, get the breakfast out, get the bagels out, get the breadsticks out. Not that those will be the results, I'm sure, of each set, but get your croissants out if you're in France and it's in the morning. Get your beers out if you're in Australia or New Zealand at that time, or whatever you fancy, because that is going to be a tasty matchup, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And we've got another women's question. Excited about Kontaveit's chances. She's playing superbly. Thanks, George. Yeah, that's a nice one. Jean also backing Kontaveit, playing really well. I don't think she's going to win, though. I don't see that on the women's side. I don't see her at the same level as Muguruza, Barty, Osaka, even Raducanu, who we talk about a reevaluation of once the tournament has begun. I do see that Raducanu is somebody who I thought was going to go out in the first round, and now I've seen her play so well, I think she could make the final. So that's a good one. Have we got time for one more? Yeah, we have. Let's give me one more women's question, and then we'll call it a day. Can we expect an American takeover? Okay, we've got a bit of Corda and Fritz there, Tiafoe and Goff, Anisimova, Baptista. Honestly, I think we're jumping the gun. Corda's out for a start. Fritz is also out, isn't he? Of course, Tiafoe. Yeah, I like Tiafoe. Goff is out. So Adam Samova, of course, is still in. But a lot of those are out. Of course, we've got Vadio Pelka still on the men's side, and Cressy as well, who I think is obviously under the American flag. But no, I think it's obviously in a better state than it was 5 years ago, but American tennis has got a long way to come, as we can see in the Laver Cup. Liam there with a question. Has Raducanu proven she isn't a flash in the pan? I don't know if you've seen the advert. I won't mention her sportswear, but I think it's kind of a funny advert that Corda and Fritz are still in. Yeah, Corda managed to prevail in 5 sets. I actually sort of fell asleep when he was 2 sets to 1 down, thinking he was going to go out. But yeah, sorry, Van Lee, you're absolutely right. Has Raducanu proven that she isn't a flash in the pan? No and yes. I don't think she is a flash in the pan. I think winning the US Open and not dropping a set, it's difficult to describe her as a flash in the pan, especially at her age. But I also know what you mean. Has she proven that it's not a one-off or whatever? And I was going to mention the advert that she appears in for her sportswear manufacturer, where there is, I think, something behind her about a one-hit wonder, as you see this sign behind her as she's hitting the ball at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And I think that's an interesting thing, because she's hitting it as in, look at me. I'm not a one-hit wonder. I'm not a flash in the pan, Liam. And I think she's not. I don't think she's proven it yet. But I think winning that match, I think, is a big step forward. It sounds strange, given that she's obviously just won the US Open, but I do think that was a big step forward. And maybe, we're going to see her go deep. And if she goes deep, I think that will be sort of putting that, not to bed exactly, but we'll certainly be putting it to rest. Guys, thank you for joining me again. We've had another great pod. I hope you like the fact that I've got the tennis racket here in the background. I don't know if the lighting is any better. We've got a load of ingredients behind me. These are the ingredients that I supply you with my report. It's up to you how you process them, but hopefully you can make something tasty with it. And I look forward to seeing you again at this time tomorrow on the Silk Report.